What up, IDS Mob? It's your boy, HarryWilmington, and today we're going to be answering a question from a guy who wants to know if he should take his baby mama back after the fact that when they broke up, she hooked up with two people actually right away, and now she's wanting to get back with him, but he's kind of hesitant because he can't figure out how he was so quickly replaced, and he wants to know what he needs to do. And this is actually coming off of a video of mine that I did called My Ex Had Sex with Other People After the Breakup. And in that video, I talked about how when there's a breakup that occurs, ultimately, whether you hook up with somebody else or she hooks up with other people, that if you're coming back together, you guys are broken up. And so what that means is that there was a chance that you two were never going to get back together. And that sometimes means that either you or the person you were dating may decide, you know what, that's a done situation. I'm going to go out and, date other people, which could lead to hooking up. So when you guys decide to get back together, my feeling is you shouldn't hold that against them because you were broken up and there was nothing that said you two were going to necessarily ever get back together. But this guy's got some other interesting stuff going on. So we're going to talk about all that and see what we can do. So I'll give my insights as I read along in this message. By the way, guys, if you have a question or situation you're going through and you want my help, you can write to me at HarryWilmington@gmail.com and I'll answer it on one of these shows. If you want a quicker response, I highly recommend going to my website and clicking on the coaching tab where we can sign up for a one-on-one coaching consultation. All right? So check that out, the website, as well as my program, the Introvert Dating Success Membership Academy. So let's get into this guy's message. He says, "Hey, Harry, I've recently had to watch a few of your ex had sex with other people after breakup videos and wondered if you could address a few points unique to my situation. She told me while dating, without my asking, her body count before me, which didn't bother me much, but has now brought into question her commitment to relationships post-breakup and has me questioning if getting back together is a good choice." Well, for me, it doesn't necessarily read as though it would be a question of if she can commit. I'd be more worried about the fact that she told you without you asking about her body count, which means that she's not a woman that can kiss and not tell. Like, ideally, you get with a woman that is not going to put your business out on Front Street like that. But when early on in the process, she's already revealing that kind of stuff about herself without you asking about it, that to me would make it more hesitant, because ultimately it's like, I wouldn't even necessarily ask that question, but my belief is like, whatever your past is, like, that's great, but we're together, so I want to try to make this work. So I'm not going to necessarily ask questions as it pertains to like the number of guys the person hooked up with, unless of course they have a kid. That's me personally. Your feeling about that may vary, but yeah, if there's no STDs or there's no kids, then her trying to just volunteer the information, that to me is more suspect than anything else. Continuing on, he says, oh, this part. So we'll get into this. He says, "We have a baby together who was 6 months old at the time of the breakup. 3 weeks later, she had 2 one-night stands. One she told me about with a stranger, one with an ex-colleague," in parentheses it says, "whom she was still friends with even after hooking up with him before, but I wasn't aware of, which I saw on video on her phone." I don't know if this means that they made like a hookup video per se, because I don't know how else he would see that on her phone. But here's the thing. This guy had a baby with this woman. They broke up in 6 months. It takes 9 months to gestate the pregnancy, and I gotta assume there was hopefully at least a year of dating before they got pregnant. So this is easily possibly 2.5, 3 years in with this person, right? But here's the thing, guy. You made a baby with this person. Like, you're not married to her, and you decided to go ahead and have a baby, which is not a great thought process at all. You as the guy should have been wearing protection or making sure this wasn't going to happen until after you potentially got married to her, because now you're stuck. Like, not to say that you have to now date her because you have a kid. But what I'm saying is that you are now bonded with her for life because you have a kid together. And for all we know, if you didn't vet her properly, you're now with a person that is potentially like not good for your life because you have a kid with this person. So this is a lesson to you other guy watching this, is that please, please, please do not go the route of having babies with women before you get married to them. Some of you guys will say, but I'm in a serious commitment and I don't want to get married. I do not care, because you having a baby with the person is not going to make them suddenly act right or suddenly make this thing more serious and make the other person realize that they need to get their stuff together or that you two now need to get married. Like, so many people today think if you have a baby, that signifies a seriousness of a relationship. And I've seen so many people have a baby with the person and then it fall off the rails. And now you know who suffers? That kid suffers. So don't do that to your future kids, gentlemen. Also, he says, so he says 3 weeks later, she had 2 one-night stands, one with a stranger, one with an ex-colleague. So the fact that she had an ex-colleague lurking in the background that she'd hooked up with before, that's no bueno. You do want to find out when you're dating a woman if she has any exes or previous hookups that she's still friends with. If she does, then you need to either drop her or you need to say, well, you know what, that's cool, but unless those guys aren't there, we're not going to do more than just what we're doing right now. We're not going to be in a relationship. You're not going to be my girlfriend because I don't like to date women that are potentially friends with exes they hooked up with. Like that should be a thing that you definitely don't allow, okay? But to his question, because what he's getting is that they broke up and then 3 weeks later, she was hooking up. How could this possibly happen? Here's the thing. At the point that a woman leaves you, especially if you've been in a relationship with her for a decent amount of time, the day at which she leaves you is not actually the day at which she started losing interest. What typically happens is there's usually like a 3 to 6 month period. So what probably happened is you guys had a kid together. She probably thought, okay, he's going to step up. We're going to be a lot closer, whatever. And around month 3, she realizes that isn't happening. So now she's like, I'm already kind of out the door, but I just finished having a baby. I'm still trying to get my stuff together again. So I'll give him another 3 months to hopefully be able to solidify this thing. So during that time, you're having consistent fights. You're, not being there for her in the way that she needs you to be there. Then she's already kind of tired of you at that point, but she's still giving it 3 months just to make sure that she's really firm in her decision. So when she leaves you, the day she leaves you, it's a shock to you because you're just getting this news that she's suddenly unhappy. But you weren't paying attention to signals 3 months, 6 months, a year earlier that indicated that she wanted things to change or that she wasn't happy with you in some capacity, and she just got tired of telling you. So when all that to say, when she leaves you, she wasn't just done that day. She was probably done 3 months prior. So when she goes out 3 weeks later to hook up with some other dudes, you're thinking, but it's been 3 weeks. For her, it's probably been 3 months and 3 weeks because she was already done with you 3 months prior to that. And then she just needed that 3 months to solidify it, but she was already done back then, and then just hoping to God that maybe things would change, but it didn't, okay? So it's a shock to you. It's not fast to her in any way, shape, or form. That's how most women are able to just go out and quote-unquote hook up right away, is that they were unhappy for a long time to where they want to just go out and feel happy again. They want to go out and start dating again. They want to get that feeling of newness. They want to feel that honeymoon period. They want to be able to see that they're still, a viable candidate in the sexual marketplace. And especially if you're having a kid, for most women, it's like they don't feel sexy. They don't think anybody's going to want them. So yeah, they may go out. If they're not seeing you anymore, they may be like, it's been months since I've had a real good hookup and I haven't felt happy. I just want to go out and feel like I'm like somebody likes me and thinks I look good and finds me sexually appealing. So that's why that can happen. Continuing on, this guy says, I agree with your moral and ethical points in the video that I made, but I feel that having a baby together should have meant more, and more self-work and reflecting could have been done on her behalf. So this is what I call shooting yourself to death. And this is where you have the thought of, well, this person should do this person should do that. If we have a baby together, she should want to make it more serious. She should want to get her stuff together. Dude, if she wasn't acting that way before the baby came, you cannot think that having a baby into the equation is going to just inherently change up the way a person acts. In an ideal world, maybe they'd get a little more mature, but most people I find, if they were responsible in their life before the baby, then they're responsible after. If they're irresponsible before the baby, having a baby does not change that person being irresponsible. Over time, age does, but, I don't know how the oldest lady is, but even if she's like, say like her late 20s and she's having this kid now, however she is when you met her is going to probably be the same way she is when she has a kid. If you didn't vet for that properly, I got news for you. You could shoot her all day. It's not going to make her be the person that you would need her to be in order to be with her or to take care of your kid in the way that you think it needs to be taken care of. So no, babies don't just magically change people into people that are responsible. Continuing, he says, It's really changed the way I see her because she said she was tired of being, this is worded weird. She said she was tired of being tested wrong and really wanted marriage, a family, etc. That's weird. He says, but how soon she hooked up with someone really challenges what she told me she wanted. It's like they're not the same person. Well, that's not true because, when a woman has a kid, she's going to be like a motherly person, but there's still going to be like that side of her that's like, but I still want to feel at times as if I can still be treated as if I don't have a kid. I still want to be seen as sexual and wanted and desired. And I want to be, ideally connected with my partner in that special way that a kid can't really bring us together with. So her hooking up with somebody soon after you guys' breakup doesn't take away the fact that she could still be a great mom to this kid. It just hurts your feelings because your ego's involved in this, because you wanted to be with her at one point. And honestly, our egos are like this. We think we're the hot stuff. We think we're the ones that the woman should want. And so if we see a woman that just broke up with us going to hook up with somebody else, we get butthurt because it hits to this part of us that's like, was I such a bad guy that she couldn't just continue to like pine for me after a breakup? Oh, she went and hooked somebody else. For all you know, she could have been doing that to mask the fact that she was hurt. And plenty of women try to use hookups as a means to get over a guy that they're not actually over. So in effect, her hooking up with these other people, if you guys were legitimately broken up, there was nothing that was going to say you two were going to actually get back together. So she may have thought, I'm really hurting right now. I need to move on. I'm going out. I'm feeling sexy. I'm at a bar. I'm drinking. I'm getting a little drunk and hazy. And now this guy wants to do them. And you know what? I haven't been wanted by somebody in a long time. And me and my ex are no longer together. And I just need some. And I want to feel like a woman tonight. And she could do that and have the hookup and be like, crap, I still feel bad. That didn't work. I still want my ex. I mean, I got out of my system that I was able to hook up, but in doing that, I'm able to see that I don't actually want to hook up with other people. I want to hook up with him. Now, she hooked up with two dudes, so that part of the argument gets a little fuzzy. But again, you two were not together. And there was nothing that was currently at the moment saying you two were going to get back together. Like either you were going to reach out to her or she was going to reach out to you. So because there was nothing there that said there was going to be a potential future anymore with you two, she has a right to do whatever she wants, regardless of if she has a kid or not, because single moms need to get their rocks off too. Real talk. Continuing, he says, can someone be a casual hookup person single, but then also want to be married and have kids, etc., and be committed to one person? Well, again, you're confusing the part where you guys broke up. And she was single. So just in the realm of dating, especially in today's society, oftentimes part of dating and going out there is hooking up. So she might have been like, okay, she met a guy at a bar or whatever, and she thought, oh, maybe he has potential. And then they hooked up, and then maybe he started acting weird. It's like, oh, he's acting weird now. I don't want to hook up with him anymore. So now that's seen as a casual hookup because it didn't go anywhere, but you don't know what the intention was that she had when she was going into that hookup. Again, it could have been for casual reasons. It could have been because she thought maybe the guy that she was going to hook up with legitimately could lead somewhere. Maybe with this other guy that she worked with, she's like, hey, he's a work colleague. We've known each other for a while. He's familiar to me. Maybe this could be a thing. And then she hooked up with him and was like, no, this can't be a thing. So she could have been hooking up as a potential to do possible research into if she wanted to move on or not. Now, am I saying that's the best mode of operandi for a woman or anybody to do? Not necessarily. I personally think it would have been great if she would have kind of sat with herself for a few weeks and been like, let me, figure out what I want to do next. Let me date with better intentions to see if the next guy that comes along is somebody that I want long term. But she didn't do that. But this does not take away from she could be a great mom, and it doesn't take away from the fact that she could, in fact, be a person that could get married and have kids and be committed to one person. I find that when women find that one person that they really, really like and that guy that they see has, like, in their eyes, a high amount of value and is better than all the other guys, they rarely have the leaning to want to go out there and hook up with other guys. So, again, you guys broke up. So, on some level, that could mean that maybe she didn't at the time view you as the guy that she could see herself with long term. But as we'll read down later, there could be other things that came into play that made her think this is going to be kind of rocky. I'm not feeling seen or heard. And so as much as I want this guy, right now, he's not being the kind of guy that I need him to be to where I can see this working long term. Continuing, He says, it's made me concerned about when things get bad, if she'll just break up and screw other people again. Well, again, you guys ended it without saying, you didn't say, hey, let's take a break, or hey, let's go to our corners for a bit and just kind of reassess things. You guys did a hard breakup. So you cannot say, well, if she breaks up and screw other people, because if you guys break up, realistically, there's nothing that says you two are getting back together. She can go bang whoever she wants because you guys are not together. Now, if you guys are in a committed relationship and she's cheating on you, that's a different story. You guys being broken up, it's not her cheating. It is her realistically trying to move on from you because you guys are saying you guys are not together anymore, and you keeping her in a holding pattern of, well, we're broken up, but, something might happen where we get back together, so don't hook up with anybody else. That's not a fair standard to hold her to, any more than I'd be against her if she was holding you to that standard. Like, if you guys broke up and she was like, well, we're broken up, but hey, don't try to, date any other women from now on, and don't look at anybody, like, that would be totally unfair. So I had that same standard the other way around too. If you guys are broken up, she can do whatever. Now, I don't think it's fair for her to come back to you and blab about all the guys she hooked up with. That part, her blabbing about all her escapades with you, that's the part that I don't find fair and that I wish she would stop doing. But also, you need to be the one to say, hey, you know what? We're broken up. If we break up again, or, with the past, I don't need to know those guys' names. I'm already assuming you're out there doing stuff. I don't need to have it directly told to me because that makes me feel some kind of way. So just whatever your things were in the past, keep them in the past. It doesn't help our situation. I don't need to hear it. Real talk. Continuing, he said, it's also affected my bedroom performance and given me PE, which makes it worse because she is someone that enjoys the bedroom fun. And now that I can't deliver, I'm worried for where we stand overall in our longevity. She has apologized. She said she's ashamed and it was the wrong choice. Wants the family and wants to get married, but I feel like I was so easily replaced. And again, that is strictly your ego. Okay, your ego saying, how dare she break up with me, or how dare we break up and she be able to go on and hook up with somebody else so soon because I'm such a great guy. Again, she was probably started thinking about breaking up with you months before she actually did it. But again, your ego is saying you're so great, she shouldn't want to be other people. The reality is there are, 8 billion people on the planet? There are 4 million women, 4 million men, right? And then you got to kind of break down to there's gay, lesbian, all this other stuff. But the point is, there is more than one possibility of people we're going to be attracted to and want to hook up with. If she decides, when you're broken up, to take advantage of one of those other options out there that she potentially finds attractive and potentially could have a good hookup with, that is in her right. If you guys get back together later, fantastic. But if there's a breakup, you cannot hold that against her that she decided to do that stuff. And also, I appreciate the fact that she's apologized and she says she's ashamed. The part about family and marriage is great, but realistically, this is the kind of situation where you guys really need to take at least a good year before talking about the whole marriage thing. Because there's a lot of, as I'm going to get to later, there's a lot of stuff you guys need to work out and talk about. And some of it's on her end, some of it's on your end. But the point is, until that stuff gets rectified, it's not realistic for you guys to say, well, we'll get into a marriage and then figure out later, because then that's paperwork. So you guys try to go into a marriage with all these problems still, and then you can't figure it out. Well, now to get out of it, there's paperwork involved, there's splitting of the assets, there's children and child support and all the stuff that comes into play. So while you don't have that, this is the time to be talking about all that stuff, all right? But here's the point. But she's apologized. She's, come to you and said that it was the wrong choice. She's sorry for doing it or whatever like that. If you're going to take her back, if you're taking her at her word that, she's apologizing and you're saying, hey, I accept the apology, then what you can't do, which it sounds like you're doing as a mistake, is you cannot now hold all that stuff against her, because it's going to actually work against you guys reconnecting. If you're going to be bringing up every so often, well, but you hooked up with somebody when we were broken up and well, blah, 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 or it's just like that time, this is that. Well, now you're basically using her apology against her, and you're not actually accepting of the apology. Which if you don't have to accept any apology, but I'm saying if you're going to accept it, it's then not fair to her for you to constantly try to bring up old stuff or remind her of how she left you or what she did or how you guys had broken up. That's not going to be fair because you're accepting the apology. Apology is, hey, I'm accepting it. I understand that you went through this thing and that you put me through this thing. And if I'm getting back with you, then, we can, talk about it in therapy or whatever. But in terms of me forgiving you, I'm wholeheartedly forgiving you. And I think people have a problem with this. Me growing up in my family, it's weird. I grew up with a mom who, she would get mad at us for stuff because just, teenagers, kids who mess up. And so at the point where we would say, like, legitimately, hey, mom, I'm sorry for this or whatever, she'd forget about it. Like, to this day, I'd be like, hey, mom, remember the time that I did this, this, and this? And she'd be like, oh, I mean, not really. Like, I forgave you for it. So I just kind of forgot about it. And so I grew up in that kind of family. So when I'm dating women and they apologize to me, that's it. I'm not trying to bring it up anymore. I'm not trying to berate them over the head with it. They felt bad about the thing. They apologized. If I can feel the sincerity in their apology and I can see that they're like really hurt and butthurt over it, I don't feel the need to lord it over them. Like, I'm just like, because that's not a loving thing to do. It's not loving for you to hold something over this woman's head once you've said you've quote unquote forgiven her and you've taken her back. At that point, then if you've taken her back and she's actively showing you steps that show that she really is a changed person and she's not, stepping out on you, whatever, then you just bringing this up because your ego's hurt and you have butthurt feelings. It's not fair to her. And it's also not fair to you to be holding that onto yourself because you're not actually allowing yourself to really, if you're not allowing yourself to fully forgive her, you're holding on to this anger and resentment that's going to eat you up and cause you to have hookup problems. So you got to let go of all that anger, all that resentment. And part of this too is when you experience whatever you perceive as a trauma, your brain is going to try to, the reason that trauma stays in our brain is because it's constantly trying to repeat and start from the beginning and say, how can I change this? How can I change this? What if I did this? What if I did this? And so you can end up getting stuck in trauma or in past situations because your brain's constantly starting it at the beginning, trying to figure out what you could have done to change it. Dude, you could have done nothing. You could have tried to go back in the past and say, I could have done X, Y, and Z, but the past already happened. You can't change it. So you can decide to ruminate over it and be, I wish I could have done this better, or what if she'd done this instead? But it's going to waste time. It's going to cause hurt feelings and resentment, and you're not going to be able to connect back with her. So if you're trying to connect back with her, you got to realistically forgive. Even if that means you two go to therapy and figure it out. Continuing, he says, it says right here, my family is against me getting back with her too, which adds more pressure, and I feel like I'm doing everything wrong. So this is where I say, typically you don't want your family all up in your business and your relationships, but also at the same time, family members can be great eagle eyes because sometimes when you're in a relationship and you're deeply in it, you can't always see the flaws that are happening. You can't see how you change as a person. You can't see what that other person is potentially doing to you that's really going to wreck your relationship in the long haul. And so if you come from a loving, caring, kind family and they've been pointing out potential areas of concern, that would be something to consider listening to. If they're just straight on hating on her for I hate the way she looks and she has weird teeth and she smells, then that's just being a hater. But if they brought up some legitimate concerns about why they think this may not work out, it'd be good to listen to those and then to see if they're maybe right in some areas and if those things could potentially be fixed. If they could be fixed, fantastic. If not, then you may want to really analyze if this is the best person for you to get with long term. And I don't want you to think just because you have a kid with somebody that you got to stick with them, but I'll get to that in a minute. So anyway, he says, we still argue quite a bit because we are misunderstanding each other. I contribute a lot to the downfall of our relationship, not present, not loving enough, didn't communicate enough. So I want to say this, is that, if what I find, and I take this as my responsibility too, in a relationship, I find that if there's a lot of arguments going on, more often than not, it's probably your fault. Not saying that, men are the cause for all these arguments. If you were with a legit, decent enough woman, right, what typically happens is just men and women feel things different and they connect differently on things. And sometimes concerns that women have about things seem silly to us and trivial and why the heck are you even talking about it? But if you actually come to them with that kind of energy and response, they can start to feel that they're not really connecting with you because you're not really listening into what's important to them. And that can cause them to feel like they got to fight you on more stuff because you're not listening. Now they have to fight twice as hard to be heard and to be understood. And that's where a lot of arguments arise because those guys are just kind of that's a silly concern. And they're but no, it's a big deal to me. And then they're trying to explain why it is. We're trying to explain to them why it's not a big deal because in the world of guy, the way we help another guy is to say, hey, that's not a big problem. And then the other guy say, oh, you know what? That's not a big problem after all. And then we're fine. But you can't do that with women. If a woman brings a problem to you and you're that's whatever, this and that, then that's an issue. Also, I think he brings up a little bit later about something else, which I'll get to in a minute. But yeah, so he says, he did his part. So if you're already pointing out parts that you understand you did wrong, where you're saying you weren't present, you weren't loving enough, then you need to have those conversations. Hey, what would make you feel like I care for you more? What would make you feel like I'm more present? Something as simple as like if she's talking to you and you're like on your phone texting, she could feel like you're not really listening because you're not paying attention to her directly. So you need to really do those deep dives, like what things make you feel cared about? What's your love language? What things could I be doing when we're talking that can make you feel like I'm seeing you and hearing you? How can I be more present for you and for our baby? So that way you're assured that I actually am feeling those things for you. And then you also let her know, hey, this is how I feel cared for. When we have these conversations, I feel great. When you're tell me about your ex hookups, I don't feel respected in that way. When we're talking about these things and I'm feeling like my opinions are being thrown to the side, I feel disrespected. Like, have those real conversations so you can get on the playing field of like, are we really communicating the best way possible? And also, another mistake people make is they think because they're talking, they're communicating. And women are sometimes great talkers. That does not mean that they're great communicators, because communication also means being able to comprehend the other person. So if she's talking to you and you're taking stuff that she's saying out of context or misreading it, and then you're telling her stuff and she's taking it out of context or misreading it or adding meaning to it that's not there, yeah, you guys are talking and communicating, but you're not actually really listening to hear and connect with what the other person is actually saying, and that's not fair to either of you. So see if that kind of stuff's going on. Continuing, he says, she said she knew things were on my mind, but I wasn't opening up, and that made her feel like I didn't love her anymore. Again, and I find I've had a situation where I've dated a person before that told me, hey, open up to me, whatever you say, like I'll be able to listen. And then when I did that, I'd get crying, how could you say that? Why do you think that way? Yada, yada, yada. And that can potentially cause you to close up. So if that kind of thing's been happening, you got to have the talk of, hey, I notice that sometimes when I come to you and I really express myself and open myself up, that you get hurt feelings. And I'm not coming to you disrespectfully telling you these things. In fact, you're asking me to tell you these things and how I'm really thinking and feeling about things. But you seem to be hurt by my observations. And as a guy, I'm thinking about it from this particular angle. I don't know how to better communicate that. So let's come up with some ideas so when we both hear each other, we're not getting hurt feelings. Because women will sometimes express stuff to us and we'll think like, why are they saying it that way? Or does this mean that I'm not doing everything right with this net? And they could just be coming to us trying to say, hey, I'm coming to you to tell you this thing because I care about you. And it's a concern that I have. And I want you to know the concern so we can fix it because I want this to work. And if a woman's coming to you with a concern, your response is, that shouldn't be a thing. How dare you feel that? You're just trying to make this net. That also makes women close up and not feel heard. And when women aren't feeling heard and they're not feeling like you connect with them, their legs just stay closed. So if you want them to open up, you got to be open to her opening up and not taking every single thing she says as a criticism. Now, caveat, if she's actually critiquing you like all the time, that's also something to look at. Continuing, he says, I felt she was very defensive, spoke to me all the time about her problems, which gave me anxiety because I couldn't fix them. Oh, this is like the man mantra. Okay, look, I've had the same problem, right? So when women come to you to complain about things, as a man, our instinct is to fix it because we don't want to see them in pain anymore. And our solution to get rid of their pain is to help them with their problem and fix it. And it sounds very logical to men. And if you go to another man and he complains to you, you give him a solution or a couple ideas, and he's actually thankful that you helped him think of some stuff. The woman is coming to you and she's telling you her problems because in those moments, she's looking for connection. She's wanting to feel that somebody else feels her pain. And just doing that will make her feel better about the problem. It doesn't fix it, but women aren't always looking for a fix. Sometimes it's not even a matter of fixing. It's they need to feel like they're not alone in the problem that they're talking about. So they're coming to you to tell you the problem so they can hear something like, oh, that so sucks. Oh man, I'm sorry I'm going through something similar. I know that's gotta suck. Or hey, I'm so sorry that you're going through that. Like, I'm here for you if you just want to hug or whatever like that. And women will initially take that a lot better. Now, at the point that they start feeling like they're legitimately connecting with you and that you're actually feeling the thing that they're going through, then they'll typically be more open to a solution. But they're not oftentimes open to a solution until they first know that you care about their problem enough to actually feel like bad for them or just feel that they're going through some kind of pain, all right? So she's not coming to you, asking you to fix the problem, don't fix it. She comes to you, I had this bad day at work, this woman was like talking about all this stuff, this and that, and then the baby threw up on me when I got home, yada, yada, yada. Oh, babe, that sucks real bad. Can I run you a bath? Oh, I'm so sorry, baby, hear that. Oh, man, like, let me give you a hug. Tell me more, like, how did that make you feel? And, like, what was going through your mind when that happened? And, like, man, that Susie over there is a really, like, strong, like, really, like, annoying chick and yada, yada, yada. Like, say all the things but a solution, okay? And then at the end, if you want to throw in, you could say, that's really sucks. Started going through that, blah, blah, blah. It's like, hey, if you want any suggestions on how to handle that, just let me know. Boom. You let her know you're available for her to come to if she needs a solution, but you're not openly giving to her. And sometimes her just talking it out, she'll go rest for she'll be happy that you talked to her, and then she'll go rest for a couple hours, wake up. You know what? I feel so much better, and I figured out I'm just going to go ahead and just call Susie and get this situation handled. Boom. You making her feel better in the moment by connection allows her to get, because see, here's the thing. The emotion of the situation is going to cloud her brain. At the point that she feels like she's connected with somebody about the situation, her brain can start to uncloud. She can start to think a little bit more clearly. And now she can go out and be able to get a solution. And you inadvertently helped her with that by helping her get rid of the fog of, all this emotional stuff that was going on in her head. Okay. So that's how you handle that. Continuing, he says, she texted loads too. And I found it draining to be texting all the time. But in a way, I miss it now. Well, guy, this is where I say to you guys, early on in the dating process, like date 1 or 2, you should be saying things like, I'm not really a phone guy. I don't really text a whole lot. I only text to set up dates, and I don't really do a lot of flirtatious texting, but because I really just enjoy seeing the person more in person. So a person that texts a lot, I found typically that early on in the dating process, if you see a woman doing this, that can indicate signs of like possibly abandonment issues, or women that like isn't really used to, is like trying to get a lot of attention from a guy because she's kind of like anxious or nervous about her ability to actually hold on to a guy. And so early on, this is when you reassure a woman like, hey, like if I'm not texting you back and forth all the time, it's because I'm either busy at work or I'm doing whatever, but I do care and I'm always going to see you in person. But ultimately, you as the guy have to control that. Like, so many men give away their power by being like, I'll just answer her whenever she wants to, and I'll be there to text all the time, But then you get in trouble later when you're trying not to text as much, and then she sees it as a change in behavior, and now it seems suspicious to her because up to this point, you were doing it all the time. So, at this point, you don't have to necessarily like be up on texting her all the time throughout the entire day, but you can spare out your text. Like if she texts you at like say 8 o'clock, you can text her back at like 9:30. Like you can work on sporadically spreading out your answer time to where she'll start to get the idea like, okay, he's not going to be on the phone with me all the time. Or if she calls you out like, hey, I know she haven't texted you, like blah, 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 blah. You're going to say, well, to be honest, babe, I'm not really like a big phone person. Like I love hearing about your day and I love, being able to communicate with you. And I don't mind doing that at certain parts of the day, but there's times of the day where like I'm in business meetings, I'm doing something else and I want to respond, but up to this point, I've been responding when it's been inconvenient because I've actually had other stuff to do, but I really want to hear more about your day in person. I want to be able to like experience, you telling me about your day and this thing that you went through like at home. And like, I like doing our little touch ups here and there, but I'm cool with like, reaching out once or twice a day during the day, or like maybe giving you a call during the middle of the work day just to say, hey, what's up? But like, I can't do it all day. It's just not my thing. And this is one of those things too, where as a guy, you have to recognize that sometimes you're going to bring something to a woman's attention that she's not going to like or she's not going to gel with. And it doesn't matter if it's not working for you. So if her texting you all the time isn't working and you tell her that, she may have hurt feelings. But you know what? In the longevity of the relationship, it's going to be better because it's going to be better for you to get it out now than to wait longer. And then her whole resentment when she finds out like 5 years later, this whole time, you didn't want to text me every single day? Like, no. So have those conversations earlier on than later. All right? Continuing, he says, I just don't know what to do. So, rapid fire questions he asked. Is she the same person I fell in love with before? Well, no, because she has a baby now. And realistically, you guys are in a different place because you guys have had a breakup. You guys have had some turmoil. There's clearly some stuff that's still going on in terms of you guys having arguments about stuff, which again, you need to get under control. You guys are different people in part because you guys have had a lot of turmoil and stuff, and you need to get that fixed. I don't want you to think she's going to ever turn back to the original person, but also recognize that part of the reason that you guys had these fights and part of the reason that you guys broke up is because you also changed from the person she originally met. The person she originally met was probably fun and easygoing or whatever, and maybe that was just your front game, but over time, you've probably shown her some anxiety, you've probably shown her some stuff that made her feel less assured of who you are. So in effect, you've changed also. And so you need to look at how were you acting when you guys first got together? You were probably more jovial, probably telling more jokes. You probably weren't as serious of a person as you are now, which can also be the detriment of a relationship, because ultimately, relationships should be fun. Like, not to say serious times won't ever happen, but you should, for the most part, be with somebody that you get along with well, that you're able to be, confident in with each other, that you guys both boost each other's self-esteem. And if you guys have any kind of past traumas or anxiousness in your situation, then that's going to bring all that down. So get those issues fixed and start working on trying to have fun again, instead of what I imagine now is happening is every time you see her, serious topics are coming up. We need to talk about something serious about us getting together and how hurt I feel and yada, yada, yada. Like, does that sound like a fun relationship to be in? So if it's not fun for you, it's definitely not fun for her. So you got to get that situated. He says, why was I so easily replaced? Do it again. It was a breakup. At 3 weeks, she was probably like 3 months into an actual breakup before she told you that she's ready for a breakup. So if you guys are getting back together, it means you need to do some serious assessments on where you guys are at. And also on your end of things, really look at in what ways were you making the relationship difficult to where she started to lose interest and eventually break up with you, okay? Because I can assure you, if you haven't fixed those things, it's going to happen again, okay? So if you don't want that to happen again, if you really want this to work out with her, then figure out those issues. And I don't care if you got to go to a therapist, a psychologist, you got to talk to your boys, you got to talk to somebody about your whatever anxious neediness thing you have going on. But yeah, dude, if you're trying to be the man in the relationship and you're acting in ways that are more feminine, like being anxious, like crying about the fact that you hooked up with other dudes or whatever, then you're going to lose her. So work on that stuff. And then he says, can I get back to seeing her the way I did before this happened? Well, realistically, if you learn to let go of your ego and stop thinking that it's such a monstrosity that she was able to find another guy to hook up with, knowing that she's probably attractive and probably do that, and that realistically, you don't have a hold on this person when you're not in a relationship with her, then ideally, even if you don't see her fully back the way you once did, you can get a more, and you really shouldn't, because that the version of her that you saw was an idealized version of this person that you were putting on a pedestal and like having like foggy glasses for, and you weren't seeing the person who she actually was. So you need to date the person as she actually is. She's a person with flaws. She's a person that probably has some past behaviors that you're not going to be a fan of. And she's a person that is sexual and likes sex, even if she's not getting it with you. So the reality is there was a breakup that happened. It was probably because of some behaviors that you were doing. You need to work on those and then start letting go of your ego, recognizing that, yes, realistically, if you guys break up, there are other people out there that she can hook up with if she wants to. And that is a possibility. But if that scares you, then you really need to work on what kind of person do you need to be to keep this person around to make sure that it's going to work out. And the last thing I'll say is this, is that at the end of the day, you don't have to make it work with this person. But the reality is you guys have a kid together. And so I wouldn't just automatically just right away throw in the towel, regardless of what your family says or what situations happen during your guys' breakup. The reality is, in this country, it is proven, statistic after statistic shows that kids that grow up in two-parent households typically fare better than those that don't. Now, obviously, if you guys stay together and it's an unhappy household, you don't want to do that. But it sounds like, outside of you being butthurt because you hooked up with somebody else, that ideally this could go the distance if only that wasn't bugging you. So I say, try to get yourself into therapy or go see a psychologist. Try to figure out why it is that you're so bugged by these various issues. Try to figure out why it is you were even arguing with her so much in the first place and what things you were doing on your end of things that caused her to start to feel less attracted. A lot of that comes to not trusting you as much, not trusting your masculine core, starting to see you as overly emotional and not knowing if she could really be around you or trust you for the stuff. Like, you could ask her, say, hey, you know what? I know we're trying to get back together now. I just want to kind of know, I'm trying to work on myself and trying to figure out what things I could do. So what are 3 things that you feel I could really work on that would, make you feel more trusting or that could better improve the situation. And then just let her give you 3 things. Okay. And ideally they're legit things. Sometimes women will go on and on about, and also you didn't clean the kitchen well. No, 3 just core things that she feels could potentially, that are things you could potentially work on. All right. And then from there, say, okay, of those 3 things, what's the one I can start working on today? Is it the fact that, maybe I wasn't there for in a certain way, so how can I be there for in that certain way, and then work on that? And then, you get the next thing, you work on that. And then by the end of you work on one thing a month, by the end of 3 months, you have the 3 things that she was asking for. And then as you start to work on the things that she said you could do better on, ideally, she'll start to notice that and say, hey, so what things could I be working on? You guys should just have a conversation and say, hey, so let's each write down 3 things that both of us could work on for the other person to really make this thing last, because we want to give us really a fair shot, okay? And then give yourself a commitment of like 6 months to really try to effectively work on those things and see if you guys start to improve in your relationship, start talking to each other with kindness. I think the biggest thing that guys do unintentionally is they'll say these off-the-cuff comments like, oh, that's just so stupid, or that's not a thing, or that's so silly. And when you say that kind of language, it just eats away at women, because they want to be with a guy that's not going to feel like the things she does are just stupid or silly or whatever, even if they kind of are, But as you say more loving language to a person and you take away, like, I'm going to self-blame you and put all this stuff on you, then you'll find that other person starts to realize that they can trust you more, because they're no longer feeling judged just for being themselves, And then, of course, I always offer coaching sessions if you want to do more of a deep dive. But hopefully, Guy, for now, this long-ass video helps you out, all right? For the rest of you, be sure to subscribe to this channel at Harry Wilmington. Be sure to go to the website and check out the Introvert Dating Success Membership Academy. Also go there to sign up for one-on-one coaching. And if you feel so inclined, if this video was helpful, you can scroll down this video or go to the website, click on the tip jar tab, and leave a monetary thank you. All right? Thanks for listening. I'm Harry Wilmington, and I will catch you guys on the next show. I'm out. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Introvert Dating Success Podcast. Visit us at introvertdatingsuccess.com for more great tips on attracting women using your natural introvert charm. Oh, yeah.